Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Well, I made it. Day one, only day, of Emerald City Comic Con. That's right, while I was in Seattle, I managed to cram in one more exciting event. And this one is Emerald City Comic Con, which is a comic convention run by ReedPop in Seattle, Washington. And while I have done quite a few reviews on this channel so far of fun little conventions, this only makes my second Comic Con that I've ever attended. However, I have some notes. Because I have been working in the live event industry since 2008 on things such as large-scale operas, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and launching giant cruise ships. So I have a little experience in these endeavors. And just to be clear, I am going to be primarily comparing this to MegaCon, which is the Comic Con here in Orlando, because that's the only other one I've ever been to. So starting out, I want to be very clear. I did not pay for this event. I have a friend here on YouTube, and that friend said, "Hey, would you like a ticket?" So I said, yes. Am I gonna say no to free Comic Con? Absolutely not. So as far as pricing goes, I can only compare it based on what is available on the website. And their single ticket prices range from $56 to $86. Their 4-day passes are $169. All of these which are pretty comparable to MegaCon. However, I will say that the VIP prices are far cheaper than MegaCon. Now, while my Wednesday through Friday had been eaten up by So Expo 2024, if you would like, there is a whole video on my channel about my adventure at that con. That meant my only free day was Saturday. Remember that time that I went to MegaCon and I said I didn't want to be there on Saturday? But okay, here we are anyway. Yep, I went to a Comic-Con on a Saturday. That was a choice. So we're gonna go inside and we're gonna see how this goes. And getting in was shockingly easy. I mean, like, almost too easy? Now listen, here's the thing. Because I got a free ticket, did not actually go to the other building where one would have to go and pick up your badges. So I skipped that step entirely. There was a security line, which we appreciate, but that was it. So even though they say on there that you have to activate your badge, why? You don't, actually. Because unlike at MegaCon, I never had to tap this badge anywhere to actually enter. And because you didn't, I will say I did not get any footage of this because I don't feel the need to film people on the street corners, but there were active scalpers, literally right outside the door saying, "Hey, who needs a pass? Can I buy your pass?" type of situation, which was not my experience at MegaCon. I kind of get the activation now. I still think it's a bit much, but yeah, okay. I see both sides. And once I had traveled my way through the very large security, which was actively pulling aside people that had larger props or props that looked like metal, I headed in to the con. And I was greeted with the most glorious thing I have ever seen at any of these conventions. A sign that was bigger than me. I cannot give enough props to ReedPop for the amount of signage. There was signage everywhere. There was signage everywhere. Very clear signage everywhere. The only time the signage even slightly dipped was once you got to a particular floor, while it would have a huge banner. It was taller than me. They were gigantic. Every floor had one, but the exact, like, this number of room to this number of room would have been the final step. You got people 90% of the way there. Because other than that, I have very little notes for the signage. It was all very clear. It was very large, very large, very large. Especially when you're down on the con floor, it had this giant exit and enter sign. It was great. Absolutely great. So I'll give you like a 9.5 out of 10 for directionality on that one, because I really liked how many signs you had. And my distinct reason as to why I think that there weren't that many signs, especially once you got to the floor, was because they have an app. Because it is the 21st century, and while I don't really want to download an app for every single event, I sort of understand, especially for the larger ones, why they're useful. However, once you got into their app, you got some bugs you still got to work out. Because especially when I went to Artist Alley, you just gave me the layout on one page, and there was no clickable box to be like, I'm looking for this particular artist, which there was one I was looking for my friend Christina. And so I couldn't find her. I had to go into an entirely separate tab, so the maps tab was the separate entity from the names of all the vendors. And thankfully there was a lovely gentleman who was on the show floor that actually really helped me navigate, because I was capital L lost looking for this one particular booth. I do appreciate if you do happen upon this video, sir. Thank you so much for your help with that app, because it was confusing and you sincerely helped. So once I had begun to sort of figure out the layout of the land, I realized two things. Number one, the thing I was most worried about on my walk over was the fact that it is winter and I was wearing a coat. And I know for a fact I do not want to wear a coat inside a con all day long. So I was very concerned about the ability for there to be a coat check, because I did not want to haul this coat around all day long. And thankfully, there was one. The only thing I will say about the coat check is that instead of it being close to the entrance floor or anywhere in earlier floors, it was located on floor 4. Yeah, it was just kind of annoying because you have to go all the way up to floor 4. Go loop around, get lost because I had no idea where I was going, finally find it, stand in line, which actually the line wasn't too bad, and then you get to go have fun. So I would have just preferred if coat check could have been security, coat check, somehow, not saying I know how to make it function, because that is a distinctly intriguing convention space because it is 5 full floors of stuff. And to their credit, there isn't really an easily obtainable coat check, but I would have loved it to not have been on the 4th floor, is the bottom line. And the other thing that I noticed is that this place is huge. Even though it's Saturday and it's busy, and I know it's busy because I watched the stream of people come in from outside and on the escalator going back and forth, I didn't ever really feel that concerned about the number of people. There were a couple times in Artist Alley where it absolutely got cuckoo-cuckoo, but that was it. I could just step out of Artist Alley for a little bit, decompress, and then go back in. Yes, there was a bunch of people. There was people everywhere. There's people sitting on the floor. There's people on they're everywhere. But I feel like this con really thought about how many people it's hosting and the size of the space that they have. MegaCon. And once all that was done, I headed down to Artist Alley. And that is by far my favorite thing to do, is to go tootle through Artist Alley. I really love to see all the artists. However, there were a couple things about the layout. Again, Comic Cons. Give your booth some room. Maybe it's because I've just done one too many vintage fairs. I'm so used to each vintage booth having their own tent, like a 10 by 10 space. And then it has a little breath room. So to me, it gives that delineation of here is one booth, here's the next, here's the next, here's the next. Comic-Con does not do that. They are trying to pile as many people on top of each other as they possibly can. And it causes a vague form of snow blindness, artist blindness, I don't know. That's not a good phrase. Either way, it makes it so that everything in that aisle that you look down looks the exact same flippin' same. I don't care how hard the artists work to make themselves stand out, to get their products to look different. It all looks the same. Heck, even the comic artists that are there signing could barely squeeze between the tables to get out. Why do we do this? What is the point? The point of Artist Alley is so that each artist can come and make money because they are paying the event money to be there. If the event does not take into account the fact that each artist needs a little breath space, I'm not even saying it needs that much. I'm saying give them 3 inches between, or 6 inches. Heaven forbid we ask for 6 inches around here. Don't make it weird. But without that breath space, how do you expect people to be able to see all the products and allow the artists to feel like they have been fulfilled as well? Because they've already paid the convention money. They need the people that are visiting, that the convention has marketed to pay their money to them so that everything can balance out, right? Capitalism, it's here, we hate it, but whatever. Again, I found the same thing as the first 2 aisles. I was able to shop, I found some cute things, I found some spoopy things, it was all lovely. And then by the last, 5 aisles, 7, I forget how many there were, it was all one thing. I was just walking in the crowd. That's all I was doing. And the other intriguing thing that I really didn't get into was the fact that the comic book artists were also interspersed in Artist Alley. I'm not here to say that they're not artists. They absolutely are. But when I think of Artist Alley, I do not think I want to go get a commission from a line artist. I feel like that's a separate genre of how art is presented. I'm not saying they shouldn't be in Artist Alley. Honestly, I actually liked MegaCon's setup where they were surrounding the whole thing. So if you wanted a comic book artist, you could still go look at their stuff. But for me, it was like, oh, and I'm back to a comic book artist. Oh, now here's stuff to buy. And it was disjointed and not in a good way. And also because of the way that this was aligned, I sort of expected that if you were going to shove everybody together, that you would also put signs up above head height with their names of their shops from Emerald City Comic Con. Not provided by the artist. The artists normally do like a table drop, or maybe they do have a high one, but there was so many disjointed booths. But as a person that goes, if I'm looking for a particular vendor, or if I want to remember your name, I don't want to have to ask the person that's standing at your table in front of you to move aside so I can see the name of your booth. I want an Emerald City Comic Con branded logo up at the top that says your name, all in the same font, all the way down the row. I know that they were issued. I also know that there were some that had it and some that didn't. So I just think it really needs to be made clear from Emerald City Comic Con that when you're down Artist Alley, all the booths have their signs up at the top pre-installed by you. And then let them go forth with their artistic energy around it. But making it clear that those need to be visible for the participants. Because otherwise, all you do is get lost. Speaking of getting lost, put your markers for your aisles on both sides. I was on the far side, next to the wall, looking for the label of the row. Label of the row. It's all I wanted. Not there. The only labels for the row were on the far side, which were closer to like the center of the room. The far side of the room had nothing. Nothing on the floor, none of the signs that were very clearly seen on the other side. You already made one set, why didn't you just make a second set? Bob's your uncle, it's easy. And I will say my favorite part about Artist Alley was the fact that my friend Matt was there. Say hi, Matt!
Hey!
Blue Man reunited, ha 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 ha!
EMG!
Now I had originally only intended to tootle through Artist Alley for a little bit of time before going up and waiting for the Lord of the Rings panel, which was happening, which I was very excited for. The reason why I scrapped that from the very beginning was because apparently the Comic-Con, seeing the crowd outside, had decided to open doors a little bit early. And so because they opened doors a little bit early, that meant that the lines for the Chris Evans panel and the Lord of the Rings panel filled up real fast. I had dropped my coat off and was ready to go and like check out the line when I hear from the floor above me, Lord of the Rings panel is full. And I'm like, what? It's like 2.5 hours away. So the one thing that I really wanted to do, I didn't get to do because they opened the entire building about a half hour early and let people start standing in line early. The other thing that I found out later about the Lord of the Rings panel, and this is from people who, no offense, did it, they didn't clear the room after Chris Evans. So if you had gotten in for VIP or anything for Chris Evans, the VIP section didn't really get cleared. So if you had managed to make it in for Chris, you also got to stay for Lord of the Rings. So there's that. Which is really just not fair overall as an event, because if you want to see both panels, I do think there is a way that you should be able to do that. But you need to make it clear on the website that, like, if you get let in for Chris Evans, you have a choice to stay for Lord of the Rings, and therefore the VIP for that will be lower. There's a way to communicate that isn't like, we just didn't feel like it, so we're just gonna let it go. Like, no. Either clear the room or don't. Those are your choices. Because all you end up with at the end of the day is frustrated fans that really wanted to go see that one particular panel, and you didn't clear the room, so it wasn't able to fit them. I wanted to go see Lord of the Rings. In a perfect world, I'd go to the little New Zealand one. I really, because they have a little thing with the little hobbit holes. Should I go and do a review on that? What do you think? Would you watch that? I don't know. Do you come here for Lord of the Rings content? No, probably not. But I am that nerd. I just don't show it that often. So here we are. So after I had wandered through Artist Alley, I did realize that I needed to hydrate. This makes convention number 2 that I find myself sitting on the floor because there's not enough seating. I am here drinking water this time. What an idea. No, it's not beer. Don't go there. Anyway, I'm very hot and I'm going to cool down before I'm going to go to a panel to try and just give myself a little bit of space because this is not blush. This is just called I'm too hot. And then it was time for a branding panel because I am not the best at branding myself online. Honestly, I don't ever think that I will just be one particular thing because no human innately is one particular thing. And I want to stress that on my channel. Like, I am going to bring you different types of content, but I wanted to go and listen to some folks that have larger followings about how they ended up branding themselves, how they got to the point that they branded themselves, all of that. And walking in, it seemed pretty fine. But what was, annoying. All of the chairs are on the main floor. The table for the presenters is on the main floor. You're telling me you can load in thousands of chairs and projectors and screens and get them all to talk to each other and play a commercial before the event for your sponsor of the event, whatever, but you can't load in some risers so we can see the panelists? Come on now. I literally couldn't see anybody. I could see Babs in like brief moments when like the other heads weren't in the way. So really it was just a podcast that I sat and listened to. So put them up on floor 4, every panel that has chairs on the floor. That means that your event should then be on a stage or a riser of some kind. And yes, it's more money to spend, but let's be real, you made a lot of money. So just do it because it's a better experience at the end of the day. I don't know what any of the other people's faces looked like. I have no idea because all the heads were literally in front of me and I could not tell. Which is bad for them because if they're talking about branding, their face is probably part of their branding and would have been helpful to, I don't know, see them. But one thing I will give ReedPop is that panel started on time. Spot on time. I'm talking to the second we were starting to talk and go through. It was fantastic. Should we have muted the mics as the presenters were loading onto the stage so that the audience didn't hear like all the horrible mic noise? Yes! Yes, we should have. Why were the mics live? But that started spot on time. And I love it. I love people that start their shows on time, whether it's a small panel or a big panel. That stuff started on time. Even the costuming contest that I went to at the end, which I'll tell you how I got backstage about that in a little bit, that started also spot on time. I appreciate the fact that these event managers actually cared about sticking to their schedule. Looking at you, MegaCon. So we just got out of the Back to the Future panel, which, despite the timing of it all, was fantastic. We started 71 minutes late, or wait, 76? Long time. But there was one other weird thing that happened that personally did not happen to me, and it wasn't until I got home and looked at the forum that I saw what had happened. There was an entire other building that was for autographs and photo ops with all the celebrities, which I never even went into because I didn't buy any photo ops and I wasn't doing any autographs, so it was fine. However, apparently for Lord of the Rings autographs, it was a small nightmare. Because what they had done is while they had assigned photo slot times and group slot photo times, autographs literally said at table, which meant that if you were lucky to get an autograph while they were at the table, oh, and don't worry, you still had to pay for it. You had to wait. There were people that stood in line upwards of 6 to 11 hours over 2 days. To get autographs. You've wasted all of your money at that point. You have literally wasted all your money at that time. Those parts of these experiences are the ones that I just kind of avoid because they seem like the most chaotic in the worst way. Not like a good chaotic way, like here. And that they don't actually care if you're getting your money's worth. Because at the end of the day, for events, you need to get your money's worth, period, full stop. And if you don't feel like you've gotten your money's worth, then you will perpetually be dissatisfied with that event, no matter how everything else ran. And there is one thing that you just can't get around. We were on floor 4, And the Chris Evans panel on floor 5 was directly above us, which meant so much sound bleed when all the audience lost their stuff. When it was just Chris talking and fielding questions, it was fine. But when they amped the crowd up, oh my God, we were all in the room like, what is happening? Is the floor gonna fall? Like, no, it's not. It's fine. It was pretty good sound-wise other than that, but oh man, that one moment was quite distracting. And once I had kind of got myself reset out of that panel, I walked on out and then I found Rebecca!
Do the spin. Yes. So pretty.
And yes, of course, when she asked, hey, is there anyone willing to go film me and hold my coat so that it doesn't go drag on the dirty ground, because she was competing that night and needed it to not be dirty, I was also completely overheated by that point, so I happily volunteered to go outside with no coat because I was far too warm. I will say that there were some larger gatherings of fan groups, most of which were out of the way. So like there was a Our Flag Means Death literally happening right over there while Rebecca was doing her photos, which is great because it's out of the way. It's not in an emergency escape. However, there were definitely some others that I think were impromptu and were not by Reed Pop, but there were definitely some that were like in the middles of walkways that had something happened and that group wasn't paying attention. They could have been trampled or just been in the way. I know innately that bodies are not part of an emergency escape, but when there are that many bodies in that much space at the bottom of a stairwell, in a main walkway, it's not ideal. Maybe trying to make sure there are a couple volunteers that just tootle around and really clear any of those extra pockets, or make sure they're moving to the side so there's always room for an emergency exit, because you never want to plan for an emergency, but you know you have to, because if you don't and the emergency happens, all you're gonna do is end up on TikTok and in the news in a bad way. So I think just really helping the participants who are super excited and just happy to be there, but really just reminding them like, hey guys, we love this meetup, but can't we just do it right over here? You know, stuff like that. Just really taking that time to make sure that everyone is protected and that they don't all get lost in their happy little nerdgasms. And their nerd dumps, that's the word I was going for. So it was about 3:30, so I decided to wander forth down to the main part. Now, the biggest downside to doing a one-day con is that there is no way you're going to see everything, because I made sure to prioritize seeing every single row in Artist Alley. That meant that I was then foregoing some of the stuff that was downstairs. And since most of the stuff downstairs is more the megas, the big box stores, the stuff you can get off of Amazon, it doesn't really bother me. I managed to get down there right about 3:30 for a one pass around of however much I could get through. But first, I had to eat. And the food actually, while it wasn't, that's the one thing I will say that wasn't signed great, because in the app you can see these little food stall images, but it doesn't actually tell you what they are. So how am I supposed to know that, Brenda? So instead, I made sure to walk around to check out all the little stalls. And the first one I found was sandwiches, and the next one was a pizza. And I was like, maybe something like that could be fine. It's con food, so there's only so much you can do. And then I found the chicken pot pie breaded with more bread thing. And yep, that's exactly where I stopped. Because not only was it a decent sized portion, it was also actually pretty on the cheaper side. It was about $12.95 for my little pot pie. I had the lobster mac and cheese, and while it was a little dry, I also realized that I got it toward the end of the day, not toward the actual lunchtime, so that probably some of the moisture got sucked out. But guess what? It was still tasty, so I didn't care. Oh yes, I should mention that there were places for food that were literally just outside of the con that I could see through the glass, but I didn't really want to go up, get my coat, put it back on, come back down to this floor, figure out how to get outside, and figure out how to get back in. So I opted to not. So that's why I stayed inside the building. And I will say, I did not think it was possible to have a worse table setup than MegaCon. I was wrong! I was so wrong. Reed Pop, put more tables in! There were, again, so many people sitting on the floor, eating their food. I'm like, oh my God. That is my overall note for this. Add more seating. That goes for MegaCon. That goes for So Expo. That goes, why do we hate people's butts in chairs? What's so bad about it? You loaded in all the chairs upstairs. What's to stop you from keeping adding more downstairs? There were benches on the first floor. That would have been great everywhere. And that's on the convention center, because those are convention center benches. So they should have put those on every floor, not just the main one. I know they have this big giant seating thing next to the escalators, but you have to understand, with a convention this large, people still need to sit in the aisles. It's not like your aisles are small. They are very wide aisles. A bench on one wall is not going to end the world. Let people sit on benches or in chairs. Stop making people sit on the floor. That's my note. Thanks so much for coming to my TED Talk. And then after I had done what pass that I could around the main floor, it was time to go back up to meet Rebecca to do the championship costuming contest. Was I participating? Absolutely not. I was wearing Deadpool that I had hand-stitched in my hotel room the night before, because if you think there wasn't a con crunch before this con, you'd be wrong. But at least it fit me better this time, so I can't really be mad. So we head in, and I am heckin' uncomfortable, because here's the thing. I know that I am here with Rebecca, and it's perfectly fine. If you don't know who I'm talking about, that is Lady Rebecca Fashions. She does these type of competitions all the time, and you can go watch all of her stuff about her make for Rose on her channel. And I was so uncomfortable, because at one point I actually kind of like teared up, because I was looking around at everyone's craftsmanship, and then I like looked down at Deadpool and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I have a long way to go if I ever want to do this level of anything. Thankfully got snapped out of it pretty quickly, but it was that moment I was like, oh, maybe this is why people don't watch my cosplay content, because it's not this or this. Like, and these are the people that I'm standing around. I'm like, I don't belong here. It was wonderful to be in a room with that many super talented people. It was also very sweet because I saw Lulu Rush cosplay in her very, very pretty Ophelia? That's not her name. Charlotte! That's her name. I got to see her in her lovely Charlotte dress, and it was so sweet. And thank you for coming to say hi. It was so cute. You had so many like little Tiana details. Like, I loved it. Where was I going with this? Oh yes, that's what snapped me out of how uncomfortable I felt in the room. Because if I'm not running an event, let me be very clear, I know where I'm supposed to be and I know where I'm not supposed to be. And in my event manager brain, I go, you're not supposed to be in here. Which is sort of how, I ended up backstage.
Really weird. I'm not supposed to be here.
Because while we were standing there waiting for Rebecca, they were calling everyone, they were getting up everyone in their lineups, and Rebecca kept going, hey, shouldn't we be seating the people that came with us? They were like, oh, no. They're going to follow us up, and then we'll get them to the reserved seats there. And I'm like, what? You're telling me I get to go backstage and I'm not competing, and I get to go see all the fun technology that's backstage and try desperately not to like grab a headset from someone and call the show? No? Yeah? Okay. No, I wouldn't actually do that, but hey, Emerald City Comic Con or MegaCon, if you need stage managers and calling stage managers and event managers, hi, I'm your gal. I'm actually do that for a living. So I would love to actually come help you. Thanks. So instead of going in with the regular crowd, we thought, oh, so we're going to have reserved seats and we're going to have to like sit somewhere, because obviously, especially with the larger costumes, you need a friend. It was really intriguing because we just kept staying in the room and kept getting closer to time. And I was like, cool, we're like at half hour. Oh my God, we're at 15 minutes and I'm still backstage. But it was really cool to get to see all the technology back there. They did eventually, 6 minutes before the thing started, finally come get us and take us around front. And the reserved seating was not reserved. It just was take them around the curtain and yeah, just go sit down. What? So thankfully there was like some second row seating on the side that put us right in front of a really big screen. Had that not been there, what were you gonna do with us? Like shove us to the back? Like the whole point is that we are the people that help the person that's on stage. So you should have saved some seats for those people. I don't know how that misstep happened, but it seems pretty small because we were in the VIP section, I believe. So it is what it is. And the costuming competition was excellent.
Someone looked a little nervous, so here's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we all get the right good energy here in the room. And to do that, we're going to have ourselves a good old Emerald City Comic Con sing-along. Right. Our first in the FX Category, it is the honest cosplayer as Link from Breath of the Wild. It required Christy to employ every crafting and engineering technique in her arsenal and then invent a couple more.
I loved getting to see everyone up on stage with all of their props and pieces and how they took on the character or lack thereof, depending on how they were going.
Steve was always her favorite X-Men character when watching the movies with her dad growing up. She spent over 30 hours hand-painting each allure, the singing harpies from Baldur's Gate 3, Karen Liaosu cosplay envisioned and brought to life, something she's always wanted to make.
I loved, the Doctor Strange and then the Doctor Strange mishap.
Fabrics. Stability reconstructed from movie stills and pieced together from scratch.
I love seeing all that part of it.
Spent the last 3 months and over 250 hours of her life bringing her newest Barbie dress to life. With 11 layers, 20 yards of trim, and 60 yards of fabric. Iceborne. Jollibee Cosplay's build has taken a staggering 1,200 hours to complete.
And then once everyone was done, it was time to wait while the judges deliberated. And because this isn't television, you actually have to wait. And instead of letting us go to the bathroom, stand up, move around, nope, we opted for a dancing contest. Which was funny, it was cute. Or trivia, which was broken, because it's in beta. Getting to see all the winners was absolutely spectacular, and some of those winners were floored, absolutely floored. Even seeing the costume close up versus on stage lighting, amazing, fantastic, we love it. What we don't love is that in the building behind us, there are no extra screens, none. So we were in the second row and we could see fine. I have no idea what it would be like for someone at the very, very back, because that was far and those screens were not that big. And also, why are we doing shots of the crowd? Why were there so many shots of the crowd? Especially at the end. Oh my God, whoever was doing the videography of this, instead of showing the full screen of the winners, they kept staring at the audience and then cut to the Comic-Con logo while all the winners are up on deck. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? The only thing I can think of is they wanted the only footage of that, or the only good footage of that, so that way no one else could put it, I don't know, on YouTube. Wonder why. It just seemed like a crappy thing to do, especially after they had been so distinctly emphatic of making sure there's multiple angles and making sure you can see everything. And then the part that everyone wants to see, which is all the people on stage at the very end. Nope, we don't get to see the winners. Nope. You better run up to the front into this huge gaggle of people and take photos or video. Okay, well, the competition is done and everyone did freaking fantastic. I am now starving once again. Yes, one day I will learn to bring more snacks. Today was not that day. So we're gonna go get some dinner with this crew right here. And then I'm gonna go back to the hotel and relax. We'll see you later. Did you end up going to Emerald City Comic Con? Did I miss you? Did we have separate schedules? Because I hear that there are a couple people that were at So Expo the day that I was at Comic Con and vice versa. Either way, let me know if there are any Comic Cons that you would like me to go to next so that I can keep this going, because I am deeply enjoying this part of my channel journey because I love event reviewing and I love Comic Cons, and those two combined make me so happy. Will it mean that I will probably never ever be a guest at one of these because they won't like the way that I talk about them? Probably. And if you are wondering what exactly happened at So Expo, that video is right there. And YouTube, in its infinite algorithm, thinks you'll like that one right there. Until next time, friends, I hope you are sewing in chaos, and that's what we'll be doing next time. Bye. God, don't drop the camera off the edge. Okay. Yeah.